Today on the AI Applied podcast. I'm so excited for this because Jaeden and I are going to be talking about what it looks like on the inside when people are trying to raise money for AI startups. Like there's just so much going on in this space. And Jaeden, I wanted you, and thanks for being a good sport about this. I wanted to share with everybody your experience on this because obviously, as we know, you're building out AI Box. You are a serial entrepreneur. It's one of the reasons that we bonded over all this. You've done a ton in the course of your life, but this is a huge new challenge, and it looks like it's really tearing it up. So, would love to hear from your standpoint. First of all, how it's all going with AI Box, which is awesome. What it is. Tell us all that, of course. But really, what I think everybody's dying to hear is we read all about these AI startups. What does it look like from the inside? This is a family thing for you. Like you have a lot of investors already. Tell us where you are right now on all this.
Yeah, so super exciting. It definitely has been an exciting journey. We have 5 days left in our crowdfunding campaign that we've been doing on Republic. So if people are interested in investing, you can go over. I'll leave a link in the description to republic.com/AI-box. You can go check out what we've done. Yeah, it's been a really eye-opening experience because I've actually done kind of the whole fundraising in the previous cycle, which was much different with my startup. Self-Pause, which is an AI life coach. And so it's been really interesting to see how things have shifted over the last, I want to say 5 years. We went through like a bunch of different changes in the market, which have been really interesting. For AI Box, we've raised now over $420,000 from around 420 investors. It was really interesting making the choice to do crowdfunding. Originally, this was not like the direction I wanted to go. I was like, oh, it's going to be too complicated. But there's been a lot of really interesting innovation in kind of funding that has changed, that made it way more accessible, way easier. And it's actually very interesting. It's a trend I'm seeing a lot of startups using, whether it's crowdfunding or something else. The go-to used to be you had your idea, you'd go find a seed stage venture fund, you'd get some sort of seed investment from that, and you'd kind of move on with like one or two investors. And things really are changing a lot. So yeah, it's been absolutely crazy experience, but yeah, there's a lot that has definitely shifted in the market, I'd say.
So, and Jaeden, you and I talk on this show all the time, and you and I listen to a lot of other folks talk too about what it's like to be on the inside of an AI startup, because you remember kind of like last spring, tons of just, wrappers and things building off OpenAI, building off all these other massive tools and saying like, well, I know that this is basically a chatbot that does this, but mine is going to talk to PDFs and things like that. And, and on the inside, it must be, I'm just wondering, I just keep thinking it must be nerve wracking, right? Because you and I have done episodes where it's like, holy cow, like there was this giant startup and then it got mowed over. AI
Yeah.
Box actually feels like you have something different. You're not trying to compete with something that they're doing where you're about to get steamrolled. So, I don't know if that was by accident from you or not, but like, tell us what it's like when you're sort of like watching some of the other AI companies kind of like get started up, but you also know that there's these giant players behind the scenes.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting. From day one, when we kind of had this idea and we started, doing like preliminary talking with investors or other people about it, this was like something that everyone's main concern was. They're like, this idea sounds amazing, right? So AI Box, for those that don't know, it's a no-code AI app builder and marketplace. Essentially, you can link together all the AI models you use, put in your prompts, and just like automate a workflow. So it's like you use a bunch of AI tools to create like a newsletter or a blog or some, piece of content. I had someone recently tell me, they're like, I'm going to use this to create murder mystery parties with like Midjourney generating images for all the characters and stuff. I'm like, that is so creative.
Awesome, actually.
Yeah. So like, yeah, there's a ton of different things, but essentially, yeah, it allows you to automate those. Now, what I have seen, and I think to your point, it definitely has been very interesting where you kind of have, you have a number of different AI plays. And I'm actually not going to criticize all of the AI wrapper companies, because I know people are like, oh, you just make an AI wrapper. But I actually have like a lot of friends and people I know that are making like simple AI tools. They can get out really quick. They can market them through their own channels, and they can make some sort of solid revenue. If it makes someone's life easier, I'll say it's a good tool. How long-term viable it is it going to get beat out by someone? Like there's all those kind of questions, but I think those can those apply to everything. And one other thing that I will say is as far as like people like they don't have a moat. A lot of times, like in business, it's not necessary. It's not like we talk about this with software a lot, like your moat. But I think with AI, the way things are going, you have competitive advantages, maybe not moats. Like Google themselves said, we don't have a moat, and neither does OpenAI. And you're seeing all the top players like essentially create very similar AI models. Right now, OpenAI is like in the lead, but it's not like an insane lead. It's a marginal lead. Like other people have ChatGPT competitors. You have Gemini, which even if it's not as good, like it's fairly good, and like billions of dollars. Like where do they all sit? So all this to say, what I think people today can have a competitive advantage of is speed to market is kind of the first one. And then really just solving problems and having like a big community. But all that being said, if you are looking at investing, it's a little bit different. So when you're looking at like creating a business that can generate cash flow and revenue, which is a big trend I'm seeing today, go make this, go do the wrapper. Like it's not, that big of a deal. If you're looking at something that's more of an investment, you do want something that is a little bit more defensible, a little bit more complex, a little bit more robust. And from my perspective, having done startups in the past before, I wasn't just like looking for kind of like an immediate quick money grab that wouldn't be as sustainable. Like I'm investing a lot of time into this, especially with the success of my podcasts and other ventures I've done. I needed this to be, it's an investment of time for me. So for that reason, AI Box, it's definitely taken longer to develop than some of these other wrappers and other like smaller tools, but it's taken a long time to develop because of the robustness of the platform and really making sure this thing is something that can compete on a very high level with a lot of companies. But I think that those are definitely some things that you want to look at when looking at, investing or creating these startups.
Yeah, I guess, and that's actually my question too. Like, so, I mean, again, you've been like really, you're sort of in an interesting position, right? Because you've been looking and studying just out of like what you and I do and what you do over on AI chat and everything like that. Like, we look a ton at these tools, right? And we look a ton at these startups, and you sort of think like, okay, so where's this going to end up, and what's this going to do, and all that kind of stuff. And now you've created one yourself, which is, I guess you did sort of like self-pause too, and then you with AI Box. And I guess I'm wondering, like from the inside, and maybe this is part gut feeling, but you're also getting a ton of feedback on it. And again, like I was blown away that you have already raised over $400,000. It's unbelievable just from like crowdfunding and other investors. So, but from your standpoint, because the tech is like so unbelievable, and because I think kind of going out in the world, people are still, they understand that it's out there, but they don't really know what to do with it yet. And so from your standpoint, does it feel like, is it like a user interface question? Is it like sort of like getting the word out question? Is it like, the sort of like the robustness of the tech behind the product or the engine? Or like, I mean, I know that's kind of a broad question, but like when you sort of like get excited about something, like what do you kind of feel like what do you feel like moves the needle in terms of getting people excited about this stuff?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think there's a lot of people that are, telling me about a lot of different ways that they'll use it. That's kind of one of the exciting things about building in public on this podcast and my AI chat podcast talking about is I get a lot of feedback of people telling me, what they want to use it for and stuff. But I can talk to what gets me excited about it. And what gets me excited about this tool is like, I love AI. I'm using it every day. I'm, using it to automate like so many things. It's crazy. This startup is completely a different ballpark than Self-Pause was, like 5 years ago. And I think what gets me excited about this is despite my love for AI, it's a tool that will allow me to forget AI in a way. So it's like right now, I use ChatGPT for everything. I go use all these different platforms. I have different logins. I'm like constantly creating content or getting VAs to do my different workflows. But like the platform that I'm excited about will essentially allow me to automate that. So you set and forget it. You can set like automations on there. So it's like, okay, every week, send out this newsletter, source the content from here, publish it to our third party here on Beehive or whatever our newsletter thing is. Here's all the prompts to build out the newsletter. Here's where they go. Like being able to do that and then forget, like not have to be in that process all the time, I think is something that I'm excited about. And the reason that I'm excited about that is not just because I actually don't think this is a winning strategy to automate everything you do and then move on. But what I think is a winning strategy is be able to automate everything you do with AI tools. And then you spend time focusing on improving your processes versus doing your processes. Like it's in business we have this saying, which is like, you shouldn't be working in your business, you should be working on your business. It's a problem a lot of founders have, where they literally are doing everything, especially as a startup. You wear so many hats. You got to do the marketing, you got to do the HR, you got to do the finance, like, and it's like tax season comes around and I'm talking to founders and they're like, oh man, yeah, this whole month was just a write-off for like taxes and stuff. And I'm like, that like slows a startup down so much, right? And so if you can automate a lot of your processes, and then all you have to focus on is, I'm going in and optimizing my processes. I don't think you should ever remove that piece, whether it's you or someone else. Someone should always be optimizing processes, even when done by AI, because if you don't, then someone who figures out how to do them better or faster will, have a competitive edge on you. But you will have a massive competitive advantage. You can like unlock so much time, 10x your time, if you have like the doing of a lot of these tasks done. You don't have to think about them or do them. You thought about them once, you figured out the process. And for me, this whole thing played out, I saw this in a way, before AI box existed, or this concept existed. I would do this with, hiring people or getting virtual assistants, where I would give them a bunch of different tasks and they would do, different processes in my business for me. And that was fantastic. But this is kind of another level where it expedites it so much quicker and the whole thing can be done.
Okay, so this is what I want to dive into just for a second here. So for those of us like out there who haven't kind of like really done this, when you're talking about audit, like we know that like this is an automation process and we're trying to sort of like get our head around like what AI Box does. So like take something that like you do, because I'll bet there's a lot of content creators out there, right? And you're a huge content creator all over the place. I am too, and we have a lot of friends who are. So talk to me like with something like AI Box, just like what this looks like on the inside, because I'm so curious, because I think a lot of people could learn just from how you describe it. Because you were saying, I hire VAs, but then you were saying like, I put the newsletter out and then it does this automatically. Like tell it, like put a little more meat on that bone. Like what does it actually look like? And, it'd be great to use AI Box as an example, but just like, how do you think about that?
Yeah. Okay, so this is a great point. And I will also preface this by saying, so I'll explain my exact process for the newsletter example, because this is something that's useful. I think a lot of people are interested in this space. I've done similar things with podcasts and all sorts of different areas. And it applies to virtually every thing that's in kind of, white collar work that we do. But I'll explain this one. And I will also preface this by saying, like, this doesn't have to be done on AI Box. This same process you can do just with AI tools. So this is the process that I use, though, and I think it's fairly useful. You could use this for a lot of things: LinkedIn posts, content, whatever. So essentially, what I'll do is, on the AI Box platform, it's just a drag and drop platform. So on the side, you see all your AI models. You can click and drag, like ChatGPT, for example, drag it onto the screen and throw your prompt in like you would with ChatGPT. Then the power of the platform is being able to link that with other AI models. So pretty much what I'll do is I'll pull a ChatGPT one on and say, okay, based off of this article, then I'll copy and paste the entire text of a article from some news source. I'll say, give me like a 3-sentence summary, make it concise, give me all the key points of what exactly happened in this story, and give me a headline in there with like an emoji in the headline, right? And that's just me like trying to spice it up. Whatever, you can do whatever prompt. You'll have your own flow for however this works, right? So the thing is, that prompt there may not work exactly as I just said it. So I spent, like 10, 15 minutes working on the prompt, making sure it could like output the exact format that I wanted. I'm like, oh my gosh, I got to like put all caps 3 sentences to make sure it does 3 sentences, like whatever you have to do, like, how the whole ChatGPT thing is. So you work on that prompt and you get it done. The nice thing is you don't have to save that somewhere. You don't have to copy and paste that next time you do it. It's on there. But if you don't have AI Box, you could just save this in a document and kind of like copy and paste your prompts from the document. In any case, so you do that. Now you need like a little, an image that goes with this on the newsletter, right? So then you could link Midjourney to this, and you put what I typically do. I've done some clever things with Midjourney, where essentially, or Dolly actually is what I use a lot as well, where essentially I'll say, like, based on the entire transcript of this article, and I just you in AI Box you can put variables, but whatever, you can just copy and paste the whole article again if you want, and then I link it back to the article. I'm like, based on the entire transcript of this article, create a condensed prompt for Dolly that gets at the general idea of what this article is talking about and creates an image. Do it in this style, do it in this way, do it in this format, right? So like I still have to give it like style and format so that it's somewhat consistent, but I literally can just input like an entire article and get it to try to come up with an image from that. Sometimes it's not good. Sometimes what I'll actually do is get it to base it off of like the title of the article. It's like a little bit more consistent that way. So you can test out different things, right? But in any case, you're linking these things together. You have like your little bullet point summary that you've seen in all of these AI announcement newsletters. You have your image that goes in there. And then you can, and then you can have this essentially done multiple times. So you have like all of your, like I usually share like 3 or 4 articles or like news stories in the AI box newsletter that I send out. I also will go and then link like all of the snippets it's generated and be like, okay, create like a brief like intro, to the newsletter based off of these snippets, summarize what's in it. So it's like, hey, welcome to the newsletter today. We're going to be talking about this story, that story, and this story. They're interesting because blah, 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 right? So it generates that. It generates like a summary of how long it's going to take to read the newsletter. So I'm just like, okay, based off of like this, all the text in this newsletter, how long is it going to take to read this? It's like 9 minutes. I'm like, awesome. So then, you can put that at the top, be like, oh, this is a 9-minute read, whatever, right? All of these like little things that are kind of nice to have that are like, you'd have to try to figure them out or think about them. You can have you could do it with prompts, but also just with AI Box, you just have the whole thing done. So all I have to do right now is just copy and paste 3 articles that I think are interesting, click go, and it generates the whole newsletter. And alternatively, what we'll eventually do is have it where you can pick like information sources. So it'll be able to grab those itself, and then it will be able to push that out itself to Beehive or whatever newsletter scheduler you have. And you had the whole thing just kind of like generated. So it's like, it takes time to set this thing up, right? Like you got to work with the prompts and try to figure it out. But like once you do it once, then you have this process that you can automate the whole thing and not have to think about it again.
So Jaeden, this is what. So first of all, I love the peek inside Jaden's brain, and because guys, when you see sort of like a Jaeden Schafer, I'm not even trying to call you up, but like other people like just producing so much content. I do too, I know, but like guys, what we do is really using these things to not, as Jaeden says, it's not like automating it first, it's setting it up, and then it really just like really really rapidly speeds it up to the point of automation. That's amazing. So yeah, listen, I love that peek inside your brain, because these things tend to feel impossible to people, but guys, like you can start a newsletter, you can start these things, you can make it look super professional, and it just takes some work up front. But like, look, Jaeden and me and other people, like we don't have some special engineering technical background here. This is literally just using the tools there, and this is why, again, AI bots or whatever you're going to use, like one of these things, like these, like being able to sort of chain these things together is just going to, once you figure it out, you've just sped it up, and then all of a sudden you're doing it forever. I love it.
Yeah. So, it's super exciting. As I mentioned at the beginning, I have 5 days left on the crowdfunding campaign for AI Box. If you are interested in investing or just checking out the project and seeing what we're doing, you can also get on the wait list at aibox.ai, or you can look at the investing in the project on Republic. I'll leave links to both of those in the description. But thanks so much for tuning in to the podcast today. Hope you learned something from the process of me setting this up and going through this whole crowdfunding thing. If you guys ever have questions, feel free to reach out to Connor or myself on LinkedIn. We're learning a ton about this space. It's a lot of fun, and we're always happy to share insights and anything else we learn. So thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to rate us wherever you get your podcasts, and hope you all have an amazing rest of your day.